I'm your host, Princess, and today we have a special guest with us, Miss Kamry.
Hey.
And let me go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Kamry, and I'm a wife and mom of 5. I am a kingdom influencer and a coach for kingdom influencers. And I think that's enough information, right? That's
What you want to give.
That's basically in the gist of what I do and who I am. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, listen, today we're going to be talking about how to avoid divorce before you get married.
Yes.
So it's going to be a really interesting conversation, and I'm excited. So first, I want to say divorce should never be an option when you are deciding to get married. And in no way am I condoning getting a divorce. I have gotten a divorce, but I'm not saying that you should get one if you're married. So let's talk about ways to avoid divorce. So like before you get married, y'all are dating or whatever have you, what would you say is something you would tell somebody what they can be doing now to avoid this when they get married?
Well, one thing that you could be doing is just like when you go into a huge change and shift like marriage, there needs to be preparation. Like we need to be prepared.
Right.
And so that comes with working on, first of all, your emotional intelligence. Like a lot of us, we have so, how do I say this? I'm not gonna say most people. I'm sorry, but like most of us, even the way we grew up, especially people who look like us, we have trouble regulating our emotions. And so I think learning emotional intelligence, I think that's huge. Learn that before you get into a marriage, because your spouse is probably one of the people that's going to press your buttons like nobody. Like, oh my goodness.
Not probably, they are.
Yeah, they will. I saw something that the other day that said there is no relationship that can cause as much stress as a marriage, like as your spouse. I don't think she used stress. I can't remember the word she used. Not stress, but it was basically nobody gonna try you as much as your spouse can. Like they are the biggest, because they're the closest, the closest relationship that we have on earth.
Yeah.
But they also are so close to us that they are able to trigger us in ways that nobody else can. And so understand that regardless of how good of a spouse, a man or woman that you get, they gonna trigger you. So learn some
like
emotional intelligence.
Looking in a mirror, they're gonna show you yourself.
Oh yes.
You're not gonna be able to hide anything, because it's all gonna come out eventually. And so I think what happens is people get triggered or they feel some type of way because their spouse is able to identify and see certain things about you that you didn't even know was an issue. And now that they point it out, it's like,
that is so true.
ain't nothing wrong with me. And it's like, yeah, actually, you have a lot of pride and you haven't dealt with it.
Yeah. Oh, that was me.
And it's a whole thing. But with that being said, I think too it's very important to choose someone who walks with God. So if you're a believer and you're trying to do this thing the right way, and have a kingdom marriage, have a marriage that God has ordained, you want to make sure you're not unequally yoking yourself to someone that isn't walking a path uprightly as you are.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important to say as well. Like, I think, being single, I will, see people that may show that they're interested or whatever in me. And the first thing I look at is your profile. What you talking about?
It'll tell you. That will tell on you real quick.
What are you talking about on your stuff? Like, what is the message that you're giving out to the world?
Yeah.
If I see a whole bunch of half-naked women and you cussing like a sailor and you pouring it up with the listen. I'm looking for the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't see any fruits, like fruits of the spirit, I don't see that you're patient, loving, kind, gentle. None of those things.
Self-control. Oh, that's big.
It's very easy to identify somebody that's not walking with God. Because when you're walking with God, your fruit will show that. Like people will be able to see you and be like, oh yeah, she not into that type of stuff. Don't even bring that her way.
Yeah.
She ain't doing all that.
That is so true.
But also to understand, because I think a lot of women specifically, they get into relationships thinking that they can fix a man.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't.
Don't even try. I've tried it.
You can't. I tried it. You cannot fix anybody, much less a man. You're not the master potter. You're not the one who is able to mend broken hearts. You're not the one who can repair where people have been broken. Like, you can't fix somebody. Mm-hmm. And so I've heard somebody say, don't marry a project. Mm-hmm. It sounds really mean. But it's like, if you think about what that means, it means that you are considering marriage to someone who you see potential in. But you can't marry someone based on potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you marry somebody based on potential, you'll be very disappointed. Mm-hmm. Because they may not meet the standard that you've already placed in your mind. Like, you may have these high expectations. Like, you marry someone and you know that they still struggling and doing all of this and doing all of that, and then all of a sudden you want them to be some pastor or something like that, and it's like your expectation is way too high. You went in it the wrong way.
Yeah. And
don't think that you have to marry this person and so they can be free, so they can learn to know God. Like, yeah, we make disciples and we lead people to Christ, but your motivation behind helping someone learn to know Christ shouldn't be so I can marry you.
Yeah, no. But you know what? Like when you said that, I kind of did that, but I was also living a lukewarm life. Mm-hmm. If I had been who I am now, no. But and we talked about that on the podcast, because I was like, I expected you to be a preacher. Like, one of our issues was I was expecting him to be somebody who he wasn't.
Yeah.
And that is gonna put stress on a relationship in itself.
Very.
So if you are in a relationship with a man, you see what he's doing, you see he's not really living for God, you see the fruit. Mm-hmm. You see the fruit of the flesh. Yeah. All over him. Mm-hmm. And then you get married, and then you had these expectations, and you ain't say nothing. You just like, okay, I know one day. And so you start putting them expectations on him. What is he gonna do? He gonna be like, wait, hold up. I don't know what did you think? You thought we was gonna get married and all of a sudden I was gonna turn into something else. But women, we like to do that. We like to build I had a friend who, she said, this not Build-A-Bear. Like, I'm not about to be trying to build a man. And I remember she's single. And she said it straight up, like, I'm not about to build no man. And I don't care if I gotta stay single, I'll stay single before I try to bring home a project and think that I can change a man. I was like, man, I felt that.
I also say, I'm not trying to raise nobody's son.
Right. We don't have the ability. First of all, a woman can't raise a man, period. We're not equipped to raise a man.
I know people will be like, I beg to differ. My mama was a single mom and she raised me and all of that. But I think if you focus on the point of you are a grown man and you dealing with your own life struggles, mm-hmm. It's not fair to expect for that woman to deal with the things that you refuse to even admit you have a problem mm-hmm. with. And I think as women, we need to understand that we can't go into relationships trying to fix that person. You have to accept them for who they are right now mm-hmm. and be okay with that. There's room for growth. People are growing we evolve as we continue to live life and grow closer to Christ. And it's not to say that person won't ever be saved or change. Yeah. But we don't know that. So for you to go into something thinking that you can fix them, that's the wrong mentality to have.
Yeah.
That will leave you really disappointed. Because
Yeah.
you don't know how long that process is really going to take. And even if do they even want to be fixed? Like, do they even think they're broken? Like, what you trying to fix? They may think that they're fine, you know? And they're like, I don't have a problem with living my life like this. You do.
Yeah.
So why are you with me? I've been this way. Why are you all of a sudden trying to,
This is sparking something completely different from what I had thought that we were going to talk about, but...
there was a time, was I married at the time? I don't even remember if I was married or dating. I think I was married. I don't know, child. But I think it was on the topic of smoking weed. I didn't like it. And so I specifically felt like if I was to be with someone who was athletic, then they wouldn't smoke weed. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm a teenager. So I'm a young adult. So the person that I was with, his friend, I had a big issue with this, and I was going to call everything off and everything. And he tried to hide it from me. I found out, and his best friend at the time pulled me to the side, and he was talking to me like, yeah, hey, what's the problem? Like, he been like this since, like, why is it a big issue now? I'm like, bro, because he told me that he didn't do that from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's why. He lied. Or he wasn't doing it at the time, but now you want to start back. So now you want me to be okay with it.
Yeah.
My expectation was set at the beginning. But to segue into my other point that I would want to say is don't ignore red flags.
Mm-hmm. Do not.
So I wrote, his niceness doesn't replace godliness. So just because he's nice, it doesn't replace the fact that he's a God-fearing man. It doesn't replace any of that. You can be nice and still messed up in the head. Mm-hmm. Like...
So it's like a lot of stuff that you are saying is bringing me back to like right before I got married. Because now I'm remembering that I had a history of projects. I was actually randomly thinking about the guys that I dated. Like there was one dude, he had just transferred to our school. He was a white guy and he had gang tattoos on his hand. Mm-hmm. He was a whole...
You say he was white?
Yes, but he was a gang member. Mm-hmm. And I remember first of all being like, dang, this white dude, like, is he really bad? Because I was like, he's so sweet. He's such a nice guy. And in my mind, I was like, I could change him. For some reason, I used to fantasize about changing dudes. I was like, he gonna get with me and, he gonna start going to church. He did go to church. That didn't change anything. Mm-hmm. Like, he was still... He wasn't, he had already like kind of got out of the gang and stopped doing that and was trying to turn his life around. But I thought that I could change him and I couldn't. I thought that I could make him do and be whatever I wanted him to be. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm in my 20s now and I'm married again. But at this time before we got married, like I was living a lukewarm life. Mm-hmm. As well. So I was not fully, I was not in my word like that. I wasn't, I was still living lukewarm. And so there were things that I did accept. But I think if I go into what we said, I still had these deep buried expectations that I never told him. Mm-hmm. Until we got married, because I thought, like I did when I met that boy, like, oh no, I could change him. Like, I actually thought that. So I hope it's not taking us too far off topic, but while you were talking, what you were saying, it made me realize like how our marriage was already set up to fail from the beginning because of that expectation. And because when I started putting these expectations on him, I was say, now we get married, now I need you to be this way. It's now pushing him because he's like, oh, wait, what? Mm-hmm. I don't know what you think this is. And now if I can't be myself. And so I guess I should just bring this up spoiler alert. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but so my testimony is that me and my husband, like, we experienced infidelity. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how do I say that in the most, not like my husband cheated on me.
Like, I mean, it's not
but it
cute.
Is what it is. It's really not. No
matter how you dress it.
It's not cute. I was just trying to make it sound like not so. But basically, my husband. It's funny that he's right there. Okay, but so we experienced. I experienced infidelity, and it was something that God brought us through. But now, like, having this conversation, I see where, why, where we started off wrong.
Yeah.
So number one, living a loop. Like, neither one of us, we said we believe in Jesus, but we were not actually living for God. Mm-hmm. Then number two, I had this expectation. I thought that I could change him. I thought that for some reason he was gonna marry me, that I'm the prize, and when we get together, he gonna just start praying in tongues or something. I don't know what I thought, but it didn't work. If anything, it pushed him further. And I was thinking, well, he's a nice guy. I never thought he was capable of doing that because he was nice. Mm-hmm. Like he said, look, he just. I'm sorry. You wanted to be on here. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to be doing this like a podcast. But yeah, you can't, no matter how. So going back to what you said, no matter how nice he is, he is still capable. What you need to be looking for is a man submitted to God. Yeah. That is the only way a man is going to love you and treat you right, is if he is submitted to God. Outside of that, I don't know. Yeah. It's free game. It's like anything can happen.
I think, too, so I have a couple points, because I also want to, because you've already shared that you had the decision to make, with whether or not you were going to be divorced or stay together. Yeah. And then I've been divorced. And so we're going to get into that. But before I do that, here's some things that you need to know and that you need to be working on now while you're single, which is you need to know your purpose. Because the person that you get with to be your spouse also needs to know his purpose. Mm-hmm. Y'all's job is not to help each other discover what your purpose is. This is something that you should already know. Like, God is the one that's going to tell you what your purpose is, because he created you. Yeah. And so it can become really frustrating when you get with somebody and they're like, expecting you to be God. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know what your purpose is. I mean, I noticed that you're good at this and this and that. Maybe it's in this category, to get a different perspective. Yeah. But this is something that people need to take the time to know themselves. Like, the last episode I did was what to do while you're single. Mm-hmm. And so you need to get to know yourself. Yeah. Like, date yourself. Get to know who you are. Like, you shouldn't, there should be no reason why somebody should come to you and tell you about yourself. You need to be self-aware. Yeah. Like, I shouldn't be able to come to you and be like, Kamry, you XYZ, and you be shocked. Like, no. Like, no, you should already know that. Right. Because you should be self-aware, Because
you know what happens when you do that is, like, you start to, when somebody come tell you about yourself, that's an easy way for them to slip in. That's how the enemy kind of get in. Because he'd be like, because people can, and men can do that as a form of flattery. They try to flatter you.
There's men that will actually, we are supposed to, study each other, whatever. But they study you so well that they know you front and back, and you're just like so captivated by how much they care about you, how much their attention and focus is on you, and all those things are great. But don't let that replace, don't let that enable you, is what I'm trying to say. Because then it'll become like a crutch. Like, oh, I can't be without that person. And I'm codependent. And I'm depending on this person to,
that's how narcissists
live.
That's actually how they operate.
And then you feel like you can't be without them ever, because you need them to be the answer for you. And it's like, I don't know how to make decisions by myself, because I'm depending on this person that has created himself in my life as the answer.
Yeah.
When really God is supposed to be the answer. Mm-hmm. So now he's taking the position that he's not even supposed to be in, and you've made that person your God.
Yeah. But they can be prevented if you know who God has called you to be, know your purpose, right? Like,
and then invest in yourself. Yeah. So it's like, if you know that you have broken pieces, go to therapy, go to counseling, mm-hmm. heal, spend time like getting yourself together. If you already know you got issues, why would you get with somebody knowing that you struggling with being faithful? Oh, I'm just gonna see if I can be faithful this time. Like, maybe go
if I get married,
find the root cause of why you feel like you need to step out on somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, find the root cause of why you're rude. Find the root cause of why you're selfish.
Yeah.
Why do you only think about yourself and nobody else? The world does not revolve around you, but for some reason you think it does.
Yeah.
And you want to get with somebody, and I mean, people gotta that's the whole stuff of it. You gotta invest in yourself, work on yourself, do things for yourself before you start trying to get with somebody else. Because then y'all not even whole in Christ, first of all, and you trying to get with somebody. Two halves do not make a whole.
You need two wholes. That's good.
You need two whole people. It's 1 times 1, okay? Make a whole. So you gotta heal those broken pieces and deal with the trauma and the stuff that happened in your childhood.
Can I bring something up at this point? Where is it in the Bible? It was when I think is it in Exodus? I think it's in Exodus. When the children of Israel, I want to find it because it was so good. I actually sent it to you. I would like to pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay.
So the children of Israel, when they were, it's Exodus chapter 23, verse 30. I'm about to read this. So God was talking to the children of Israel, and this is what he said. This is when he was basically telling them that they would inherit the promised land. Mm-hmm. But they were complaining about like the food. They were complaining about the food. And he said, by little and little I will drive them out from before thee until thou be increased. This is King James Version. Sorry. Let me do NIV. Okay. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. Until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, from desert. But I think I just want to talk just about that. Yeah, I'm going to stop. So when he said, little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. Mm-hmm. So basically what he was telling the children of Israel is that you cannot possess the land. I'm only giving you little by little, because if I give you the entire thing at one time, y'all don't even have the capacity to care for the land that I'm giving you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm seeing that is like within like marriage, it's like sometimes we so badly like want to be married, and we want this kingdom marriage, but God is like, you can't, if I give this to you overnight, you don't even have right now within you what you need in order to maintain a marriage. And so that waiting season is when we need to be doing the work. Like that's when the work needs to be done.
Right.
Because like the children of Israel, they weren't even in number. That's what, because right here, it wasn't even enough of them to care for the land. The promise of God is so big, and this is like even for, I'm talking to you and anybody who's listening,
yes, that
God has promised you a kingdom marriage, and it is such a great promise, like an amazing thing. But God is like, okay, daughter, I love you and I want you to be ready. I don't want you, because if I give you the marriage, you could mess it up.
Yeah.
So be patient and wait and understand that I'm building something in you. Like I'm doing a work within you, and I promise you it is going to be worth the wait. Like it's going to be worth it. Mm-hmm. So that popped up in my head, but I'm like, man, that's life changing when you think about it, because we always want it immediately. We want our blessings. We want that promise immediately. God's like, no, little by little.
And sometimes we can get in the way of what God really wants to do, and end up marrying the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to be aware of is sometimes we can be so desperate to want to be loved and to get married that we overlook the red flags. Like, we overlook the things that we can clearly see now while we're dating this person, you know? And then that poses a problem, because once you get married, those same red flags that was always there, you start noticing them now that you married, and it's like, well, sis, he was like that before you even got married to him, but you ignored the simple fact because you wanted to get married so bad that you didn't want to wait for God's best, so you chose God's less. I don't know. I'm just putting that in there. But you settled for what you thought would be a good option instead of waiting on God to reveal to you who is the person that he wants you to be with. And we get in God's way when we decide we want to step in and just make the decision, like, because we don't want to wait. So it's like, oh, I really like this guy. He cute. He look good. You know, he make good money. He love God. But it's just this one little thing that I don't know. But it's all right. I think he'll. What's the one little thing? He got 10 baby mamas. And he cuts like a sailor. But he love God though.
But well, okay. So I'm not even gonna. I won't say it. I'm not.
And nothing against, the times that we live in. But people may have a lot of, babies' parents, and they may have changed and gotten delivered.
That's true.
But the
fruit
things
is gonna be there. Like, it still goes back to what you said. But where's the fruit? Like,
the fruit will definitely be evident. So it's like, if you see certain things about this person now, why would you expect for it to be anything different if you were to decide to marry that person? So all I'm trying to say is, don't allow your desperation to blind you from what is actually being presented to you, to where you see these red flags, but you just bypass them. And then the other thing that I wanted to say too is that you need to identify what are your deal breakers before you even get into the relationship.
Yeah.
Like, what are some things that are no-go for you? Like, this is an absolute deal breaker. For me, integrity is number 2. Because you gotta love God first. Love God. I was about to say number 1. Integrity is a really big thing for me because I dealt with someone who did not have integrity. Lying, cheating, manipulative, narcissistic. I don't want to deal with nobody that don't have integrity. Yeah. I need to be able to trust you. If I can't trust you, why in the world would I give my life to you? Why would I yoke my life up with yours, knowing that you're supposed to be leading me because you're my husband? If you can't even lead yourself, then why in the world would I trust you to lead me? Yeah. So integrity is a big deal for me. And then my other deal breakers was, things that you actually do. Like, I don't want anybody that smokes and drinks. I'm not interested in it. This is what I say to myself, because if I wanted somebody that smokes and drinks, I could have stayed with the person I was married to. Yeah. So I'm not interested in it. I don't want anybody that smokes and drinks around my kids. I don't want them having cigarette smoke and spending all the money on weed. And I don't have time for that. My husband, he don't do that. He may have done it in the past, but he's been delivered. And I'm speaking in future tense, to be clear, because I'm single.
But he's there. So.
But just to be clear, those are things that I'm just not interested in. So when I see somebody approach me and they're like, I see that that's what they like to do, I'm like, oh, bet, what's up? You've already been X'd off my list as a potential partner, because what you showing me now is I'm not gonna go for that. I don't want that for my life, and I have to think for my kids now. Yeah. I have 3 girls. I have to think for my kids. What am I introducing into their lives? Who am I signing up to be with for the rest of my life? Because I plans to get no divorce. Yeah. So it's identify your deal breakers. What is that for you? And don't say something like, oh, well, if he don't wear a size of 14 shoe, then it's a deal breaker. You need to grow up. Okay? You need to grow up. Now, listen. I mean, like, real deal. Think about the character of this individual.
Yes.
Because it's the character that matters the most above all else. His relationship with God and his character. He don't have a relationship with God, you can't be his pastor. I'm going to try to lead him to Christ and he going to be saved because of me. Ma'am, we just got through talking about you can't heal you can't fix anybody. And you can't be nobody's savior. Why would you marry somebody that you're not equally yoked to?
Yeah.
That's just that. And so being aware of those things ahead of time will save you a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So I want to share this little story. I'm not even going I'll share it because she's okay. So my sister, she was single for the longest, and I think she wanted to be married so bad. Like, she had been praying. And so let me say that the enemy knows how bad you want to be married. Like, the enemy know that too. So he will send you everything. He will send you somebody who's nicely packaged and looks exactly like what you've been asking God for. Counterfeit. My sister, a man came into her life. I think they talked on social media. I think they met on Facebook or something like that. Yeah, I think it was Facebook. And she didn't really know him like that prior to. Like, I think that she had just been seeing him on social media. They had been seeing each other. And he was a pastor. That was like, ooh, because you know how we are. When you spiritual and you have this idea, somebody come at a pastor, it's just like, ooh, wait, what? You a pastor? And he was courting her. He was always talking about how he wanted to wait till marriage. He was buying her like gifts, like almost every day, bringing gifts up to her job. I'm talking about doing everything that it's like a fairy tale. And he had not only my sister was like, something ain't right, and she kept saying that. But me, I was like, because I knew what I was going through in my marriage. So like when you going through some stuff and you see somebody else, it's like, girl, no, I would, listen, that's it. This is your husband. Girl, you better not listen. I was like, you just ain't used to nobody treating you right. That's why you acting like that. Mm-hmm. And so she was ignoring these feelings. Like when they had first talked on the phone, she had a situation with her heart that out of nowhere, she started having chest pains and she had an actual bruise. Like something happened to her heart. She went and got an EKG. It was showing signs of like, after you have a heart attack, there's basically they see the damage done to your heart. They had no medical explanation of what happened to her, but there was proof that there was damage to her heart. And then she started dealing with migraines when this man came into her life. These are also spiritual signs. She wasn't feeling right. Now she's all of a sudden started getting migraines and then had a whole heart problem out of nowhere. And she dealt with things after that. Like it was like ongoing situation for her. And she kept thinking something ain't right. But again, I'm sitting there, he's a pastor. Cause I'm looking at my husband like, I wish I had a pastor. So you better stick with him. And so she did. Long story short, this man ended up being a narcissist. He was manipulative. He manipulated her spiritually, physically. He said, oh, we're going to wait. But guess what? He started doing, pressuring her to have sex.
Test his fruit. There's a song.
Yeah. Oh, I was about to say, what song is that? Was you about to
There's
sing?
A song.
Is that really a song?
It is a song. I forgot the dude's name. I think it's a dent. It started with something. I'll probably remember it.
Dang. Well, I need to know.
It's check their fruit.
Check their fruit.
Because that woman could be crazy or that man could be or whatever. But it's check their fruit. I just forgot what something Haddon. His last name is Haddon. First name started with a D. But it's a song. But it's very important though because just like I said, like goodness doesn't mean godliness.
Yeah.
You gotta evaluate the fruit because even the devil, the Bible describes the devil as an angel of light. Like he a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah. Like there's plenty of pastors out here that's not living right.
Mm-hmm. That don't mean title don't mean it don't mean.
Oh, you a pastor of what? Who like?
Mm-hmm.
Who you represent? God. Oh, okay.
And then I didn't. Well, and one of the worst things about it, not only was he a narcissist, manipulative, he was a homosexual.
Oh, he was living on the down low, so he was trying to find him.
So he wanted a cover up. He wanted a cover up family. He saw a woman. She had a daughter. He was trying to paint this picture of the American dream, his family. When the whole time, behind the scenes, this man wanted a man, and he still. I mean, never mind. I don't get. He's still dating women. He's still. I don't know if he's married or not, but
it's just so much behind. If you don't avoid those different little impressions that you get. Is something wrong with this situation? Trust that, because it's the Holy Spirit warning you that this situation is not right. Like, yeah, it may look good, but that don't mean that it's good, because God knows the heart. He checks the heart. We look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And so we can't see somebody's heart. What they do, displays what's in their heart, but we got to really pay attention and focus when those signs are shown. And so, and if you not overlooking red flags, you ain't even gonna see it until it's too late. So let's go into this divorce situation. So you shared that you guys went through a tough season, and infidelity was in play. Things were not looking great. What made you decide to stay married instead of getting a divorce?
Well,
too late.
So I decided to stay married. So divorce was an option for me, because I was at this point, I was like, okay, you know what, I think, because at this point I was trying to change him and it wasn't working. And then, now, you gonna go cheat on me? But I saw the change. I saw that he was actively, he genuinely was sorry. And it was like, when everything was just crumbling down, and I remember praying, I'm like, God, I don't know what to do. And I got that glimmer of hope. I saw a glimpse of who God. So I've always, like I said, I always just wanted my husband to be a pastor. Since I was a kid, I was like, my husband's gonna be not a pastor, but just a very strong and bold man who loved God. That's always what I had dreamed of. And so I had got a glimpse of that. It's like when I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready for divorce. And we were in a marriage group at church. And he just was like, let's just go. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go to church. I don't want to do nothing. I'm going to sit in this bed. He was like, no, let's just go. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But I went. I didn't sit by him. It was clear. Everybody could tell we was having some issues. So I was just sitting there with my arms folded, whatever. And so they had an activity where every group, you have to get in a group, and all the couples were together. We was the only couple not in the same group. And so they called his group up. I'm checked out. I'm looking down I don't even care. I'm just like, whatever. Don't nobody ask me to say nothing. I'm not participating in anything. And I'm just sitting there just like this, not looking. And I hear this voice talking. I was like, is that Isaiah? What is happening? Who is this person? Because just to let y'all know, my husband is he's an introvert and he's antisocial. He don't talk, and he's the type of person, if he don't want to talk, he gonna say no. He just gonna be like, no. This day, I don't know what came over him, and I don't know how desperate he was for us to, but I was like, I don't even think he was trying to impress me. It was just it was just this moment of inspiration. And that he was able to read the word and then give, it was like, wow, wait, could this be? Is this a sign? But it wasn't just that one thing. I just saw progression. Yeah. I saw him actively changing and really trying. Yeah. And so that's why I stayed. That's why I was like, okay. Because I felt, we'll get to that, but yeah, that's why. That's why I saw that. I saw some hope.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because some people listening or that's already married and they're faced with these decisions, like, you know, they feel very strongly and passionate because of what they've gone through. Like, oh, there's no way that you should be telling people that you should stay married to someone that's been unfaithful to you. But I would pose to a different response to that. I would say actually, if you see that person is trying, then why not give them another opportunity? Why not work it out with them? Because God desires reconciliation. He desires to see you together. Yeah. God doesn't like divorce. He hates it. But the reason why a lot of people struggle with this is because of our hardened hearts. So, like, what I mean is that sometimes we've been hurt so bad or disappointed or whatever it is, and now your heart has become hard to the point where you no longer care about what progress they make. Because at this point, you checked out. You like, you know what? I'm done. There's nothing that you can do to make me change my mind. I'm done. Go ahead and try. Yeah. Your heart is hard and you don't want to forgive. Because here's the thing, whether you stay with this person or not, you still have to learn how to forgive them.
You sure do.
Because we as believers, we have to forgive. You don't want to forgive somebody else. You cannot expect for God to forgive you for all the things that you've done. Yeah. Forgiveness is a key. And so it's our hearts being hard that causes us to be blinded to the fact of seeing progress. Sometimes we have these expectations of what we expect something to look like, and we paint this picture like, yeah, I'll believe him when I see this. I'll believe him when this happens. Yeah. But then you overlook everything that this person has been working on to prove to you that they messed up and I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, I give you my word, I'm not even interested in even looking at another person anymore. Yeah. Like, I only want you. I want this marriage to work. Like, I'm serious. I'm dedicated to it. I'm showing you. I'm proving this to you. Yeah. And then us, we have to forgive and ask God to soften your heart so that you can see through a healthy lens. That you can actually see this person trying. So I think that when you see progression and there's not a repetitive cycle of infidelity, that's not, I would say that that's grounds to show you that there is hope. Yeah. There is. And so the difference between what you just got through saying and my story is that there was no hope. I didn't see any hope. Yeah. I got the opposite. So it's, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry, blah, 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 I'm crying and I don't know what's wrong with me and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do it anymore. But then it happens again. Actually, to backtrack, you had mentioned like in the beginning when you decided to get married, you felt like it was just going to be this, all of a sudden everything was just going to come together. So I thought the same thing. Yeah. I got married at 20. And my mom used to tell me that when you get married, you're going to have favor and God is, just a whole, things are going to go right and blessings and all this stuff. So, me and my 20-year-old mind, 19, 20, I'm like, okay, once we get married, I ain't going to have to worry about any of this stuff that I'm dealing with him with now. Like, we was dealing with unfaithfulness while we were dating. I somehow thought that once he put a ring on my finger, we went down the aisle, we said I do, that all of a sudden he was going to be faithful and 100% committed and loyal to me. It turns out that was a lie. Let me get my notepad. And the results say that was a lie. The lie detector says, and for a minute in the beginning of my marriage, I actually thought that he was faithful. Yeah. I thought that he was faithful. And there was some things that came up and I would question it. I would, bring it to his attention. He would always deny it. And you know how that goes. It's like, I'm telling you what I'm like. Are you doing this? No. You tripping. You no. Okay. No, I was at so-and-so house, so I wasn't there. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
You know? And it wasn't until I was sitting on the couch one day and I happened to look at my Facebook. So back in this time frame, Facebook, and I guess they still use it, there was this special folder that messages that people, if they weren't connected to you, like friends, it would go in that folder and you wouldn't even get notified. I was looking around one day and I came across this message from somebody, and the message said, hey, I know that you don't know me, but I'm trying to get in contact with you for him. I am so-and-so's aunt, and we're trying to make arrangements for him, my ex-husband, to take care of his son.
Wow.
And we want him, you know, we trying to figure out this stuff, but they haven't been able to get in contact with him and all this stuff. And so I sat here and read this, and I was sitting next to him, and I said, he read the message, and he was like, oh yeah, I heard about that. And I said, you heard about that? Like, what? Like, that's your response? I got up and I left and I took a shower, and he was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no. Like, what? Right. And then, look, I think at that time, I actually prayed to God, and I had asked him to show me what I need to see.
Yeah.
Because I used to be a little investigator. And I would be looking, and he'd be, I remember this moment. It was, if I was on camera, man, people would be rolling. I remember he was asleep one time, and I was trying to look in his phone. I can't even tell it without laughing. Listen, he was in the bed. I'm on the side of the bed, trying to look at his phone. So I was looking at his phone. He woke up. He was like, what are you doing? And I like kind of threw the phone.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, oh my gosh. I went beyond being an investigator. I put a tracker on his car. I put an app on my phone so I can get all his messages to my phone.
I tried that.
And and when I was syncing everything, I was like, please don't come in the shower. Because sometimes he'll like open the shower while I'm taking a shower, or he'll like get in with me. And so I had his phone sitting on the tub, pushed back with the curtain closed. So he came, and he opened the curtain a little bit, and I was like, ooh, what's up? Like, and I was like, ooh, in my head, I'm like, please don't look to the right. Please don't look to the right. Don't look to the right. Don't look to the right. He didn't. He left. I was like, girl, wow. I went through so much to try to prove that he was unfaithful. And messages was coming in. Listen, okay, so I'm going to go back to the point. I prayed to God that he would show me what I need to see, that he would reveal to me anything that I need to know, and that anything that I need to know about, he would just reveal it to me. Like, I shouldn't have to be doing all this searching, because every time I search and I find something out and I bring it to his attention, he's denying it. So, anyways, it's too much work. You got to go through all of that to be with somebody. You don't need to be with them, period. So, man, after that prayer, like, stuff just started to like come like back to back to back, and that message was the first that I got on Facebook. And then after that, it was something else. Got a letter in the mail about some child support. And I'm like, what is going on? It was just so much. I had other people DM me about stuff. I got to a point where I went back to God, and I was like, I don't want to see nothing else. Like, don't show me nothing else. I can't take it. I can't take no more.
Yeah.
Because he was living a completely different life. And it had been going on for years. Like, man, it's so much that I had to unpack, like, at one time. And, man, but God, if I wanted to see it, he would show me. Because I remember a time where someone reached out and he was like, yeah, he was on this site or whatever, and that's how, we connected or whatever. And I was like, well, what's the name? And they told me, and I was like, well, that was just like, you just gonna have to figure it out. And so I went on there and I sat there and I actually figured the password out. I feel like God gave me the password, and I signed into that account, and I went and looked at all of the messages that was in there and how far they went back, and I was just sick to my stomach.
Wow.
I was sick to my stomach because of all the things that I had seen, everything. It was so much that I just couldn't take it. I couldn't handle it. And so, yeah, in that season of my life, I actually pulled away from God, period, altogether. I was like, you know what? I just cannot believe that you will allow this to happen to me. And you're supposed to be God.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to talk to, and so that segues into what I was going through when Sharina, we had became friends, like, around the ending of that period. She didn't know that was going on. But she kept in touch.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, I don't talk to her. She up here talking about Jesus and stuff. I don't even know about no Jesus.
Yeah.
Because how can me doing all this praying, me doing all this fasting, me trying to amp my sex game up, all these different things. I remember asking him, I was like, well, after we had a moment or whatever, he was like, oh yeah, that was good and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, if you satisfied or whatever, like, why do you keep cheating? Man, I don't know, like, I just can't stop.
Yeah.
He just couldn't let people go. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I didn't understand it because this whole time I thought it was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do all this extra stuff. I'm paying attention to the people he's messing around with, trying to see what are they doing that, that I can't do.
Yeah.
Because going through stuff like that will make you question yourself.
Yes.
And it makes you think about, like, what's wrong with me that you can't stay faithful to me?
Yeah.
Like, what do they have that I don't have? And honestly, it's not you. It is them. Now, you may have done something and maybe maybe the issues that you have caused them to turn to somebody else.
Yeah, or just like a trigger, but you can't trigger something that's not in them. It was in them, just...
Because it's like, people be like, well, I'm lonely in my marriage. They're like, well, you always gone, or every time we talk it's an argument, or you just don't get me, you don't understand me, like, we don't connect anymore, or you just don't make me happy. All these different excuses, and then somebody just coincidentally you get in contact with, and they're like making you feel alive. Because that was one of the things he said with that individual that he was with during the end time. He was like, well, she just made me feel alive and young, and we act like we old married couples, like we don't do nothing, we boring. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what is it?
It's crazy though. It's like, but why stay? Like, why would you, if that's what you like, why were you still wanting,
Because you want your cake,
yeah,
and you want to eat it too, which is like a hook line of my other business, but we ain't gonna get into that. But it's like, you want to, he actually told me that he wished that we could be one person. He wished that what I had and what she had, we could put it together and be this perfect person for him. Because she had some ways about her that was fun and spontaneous, and I guess, just some things that he just liked. And then there's ways about me that he liked or loved too. he wanted to put it together and have the perfect person.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it don't work like that. And how are you supposed to feel after that? And it's like, wow, you got problems. Mm-hmm. Like, you really have some issues that you need to deal with, because for you to, I understand that people like more than one person sometimes. Yeah. But this is a marriage. This is a covenant.
You don't get a chance to like piece stuff together. It's too late.
You can't knit together your own special spouse. Mm-hmm. Like, God knows exactly what you need, and unfortunately, in the state of mind that he was in that season of life, he was not what I needed. Yeah. And I could not propel forward in the calling that God put on my life being attached to him. And so when I decided that I wanted to walk away, it actually had been on my mind for a while, and he even entertained the thought of divorce before. So it wasn't just me. We talked about it throughout a course of years. Mm. Like, after the first year of marriage, I was already about to divorce him because he had cheated. Yeah. In the first year, and I was pregnant. It was just a few months. Wow. And I just had his phone for something. I needed to send pictures to my mama, an ID or something like that, and a message came up talking about, oh yeah, you felt so good last night. And I was like, what, huh?
That's crazy, because typically, like, cheaters, they're very protective over their phone. So I just find it crazy that you had access to his phone. Like, that's very different.
Yeah, so he was protective over some stuff, but you know, you can't hide everything.
Yeah, you can't.
It comes out.
It comes to the light.
And you know, I brought it up, and of course, oh no, I was just encouraging her, and she was going through some stuff and all this. I'm like, bro, you felt so good. What? You think I'm stupid? You was encouraging her with what?
You was encouraging her.
Yeah, I'm gonna encourage you as
Technically, he could have.
My gosh. And I was even in that moment, I was pregnant, very much pregnant with my first child. And I was like, man, I could just call this off and just be a single mom, just be me and my daughter. But I said,
but you know, because once you start adding kids, it's
hard.
Oh my gosh. And it's just like, well, now I can't. Like, that was the case with my baby daddy. I was like, I'm pregnant now. Like, I can't leave. But thank God, he was, at that point, he was like, I'm not about to get married. I'm not trying to settle down. I still want you. I still want you to be around, yeah. But I want to do my thing.
And the whole reason, I think, because one of the things that came up is that he says that I forced him to get married. Mm. That it was me. And I was like, can't nobody force you to get married. Like, you the one asked me to marry you. What are you talking about? You always was talking about it. Well, previously, he mentioned that he asked me to marry him because he felt like that was the only way he was going to get me to stay. Because I kept telling him, I was like, if this keeps happening, we're done. Yeah. And it kept happening. Wow. And so, he asked me to marry him. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh.
Because it's our dream. Like, it's
it's
just like, okay. Wait, that just solved everything.
And I wasn't, like, you know, I'm young and dumb, okay? Yeah. But
girl, if my baby daddy asked me, I probably would have been like, yes, I would, because like you said, like, especially when you're that age, you think marriage means that all of that stuff goes away.
It's going to go away, and it doesn't. Like, whatever y'all are dealing with unmarried is going to be magnified when you become married. Mm-hmm. Unless you deal with that, like dealing with it beforehand. Yeah. You go through the healing stages. You're going through therapy. You're actively wanting to change. Mm-hmm. Asking God to help you change. You don't want to be this way no more. Yeah. But if you don't want to change, you're not. So when you get married, it's not going to make everything better. It's not icing on the cake. You get married for the wrong reasons. It's just gonna be a big mess, and it's just you're gonna be hurt in the process and waste. I mean, nothing is wasted, but it is what it is. But when I made my decision, I had went out and talked with him in the garage. And I was like, hey, I can talk to you. And he was like, yeah, what's up? And I told him, I said, yeah, I think we both know that we just need to get a divorce. Like, we know that we're not good for each other, whatever. He got mad. He was so mad, he started cussing me out, calling me outside my name and all of that. And I just got up and walked away. And when I went in the house, I saw my 2 kids sitting by the garage door that had heard everything. And I just felt so bad.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I'm their example of what they should expect from a man, like to accept.
Yeah.
And what am I presenting to them right now? I'm presenting to them that it's okay to allow a man to talk to you like this. To cuss you out, yelling, doing all this screaming, hollering, slamming doors, punching holes in the wall, throwing stuff. It was horrible. And when you grow up in situations like that, you think it's normal.
Yeah.
I didn't want that to be their narrative. That they grow up thinking that a toxic relationship in these toxic moments is normal. It's not normal for somebody to be constantly throwing stuff and hollering at the top of their lungs. That's not normal. To walk around and we gotta cover gigantic holes in the wall with big pictures.
Yeah.
That's not normal. You know, and so I was faced with that decision. I was like, you know what? I need to show my girls that this is not something that you need to be okay with.
Yeah.
The cheating didn't stop. So the difference between you and me is the cheating didn't stop. The offense kept going. We went to counseling. The counselor told him that he couldn't keep messing up no more. But he kept messing up. So it's like if the offense continues, it's repetitive, there's no sign that anything has changed, and every time you think you're good, something else pops up. Then I would say walk away.
Yeah.
Because not only are you putting yourself at risk mentally, but your health is at risk too.
Yes.
I can't even name the amount of times I went to the doctor being pregnant to get my checkups, and I have chlamydia or gonorrhea, and I'm married, and they know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to let you know that you're married, right? How embarrassing.
Were you close with your doctor? Like, would they?
It was the nurses that would tell me,
okay.
And the doctor would know.
Yeah.
It's just the he was with me at one of the appointments actually.
Mm.
And the crazy thing is the nurse had said something. She was like, yeah, you just, I don't know how she said it, but she brought it up. She was like, yeah, you just been having a lot of cases of, this STD or whatever. He was like, oh yeah, and it hadn't been that many times. He was like, no, it's been about this many times.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't even really say anything. And I was just sitting there like, I'm glad you're here listening to this nonsense, because not only are you putting me at risk, you're putting your child at risk.
Yeah.
While you out here just raw dogging it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to make a decision for me and my kids. And in my peace of mind, there's no way in the world that I could be healthy in that marriage.
Yeah.
Not in that state of mind.
Mm-mm.
Not in that state of mind. Not with the things that we were dealing with. Can God redeem? Of course.
Yeah, he can.
He can. Can he change?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he can, but he has to want it for himself.
Yeah.
People ask, oh, well, what if, would you, if he changed and God did a work, could you see yourself being married to him again? I don't know. I always say, I'm like, listen, it would have to be God.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be God, because even after the divorce, it was a mess.
Yeah.
And it was crazy going through the things that I had to go through, even after the divorce. Like, I've never seen that version of him. Once we split, it was crazy. And I'm not going to dive into that too deep, because that's a whole different story. But Yeah, I do believe that God can redeem, and I have heard of stories of marriages, people getting divorced, and then later on they come back together and get remarried, and I think that is beautiful.
Yeah.
But I also think that they have to be in the state of mind where they really want true change, because true change only comes from God.
Yeah. It only comes
not from a person.
No.
Your healing is not connected to somebody else. Like, you cannot be healed because somebody is healing you and walking you through this journey.
Mm-hmm.
God does put people in our life, and they are with us during our healing process. However, healing comes from God.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an experience. So for anybody who is married and they've been battling with whether or not they want to get a divorce, I would really just say examine your heart. Mm-hmm. Take it back to God and really see, are they trying? Have you done all you can to work on your marriage, your relationship? Go to counseling, get therapy, do what you need to do, because if your spouse is actively trying and they're not repeating the same offense, then I would say it's worth working on. But if you're in a abusive, toxic situation, because I mean, we didn't even say anything about the physical side of things, but if there's no active change and there is repetitive behavior it doesn't matter, then I would say that you have tried.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that was my decision making as to why I walked away. It's because I saw no change. And it was at this point I had to decide, how long are you willing to stay in this relationship without seeing change? Mm-hmm. It's not like small stuff like, oh, he getting on my nerves because he don't like to clean the dishes or something. It's not anything like that. Are you just selfish? It was about my life.
Yeah.
We talking about my health, my mental health. Mm-hmm. I mean, to couple that, belittlement, making me feel like I can't make decisions by myself. Mm-hmm. Making me feel like I'm stupid, like I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's how y'all feel.
Like, it's a lot, and so I feel like I don't believe that God desires us to be like that and being unhealthy and being in unhealthy situations. So change happened for y'all's marriage, and that's a blessing. Change did not happen for me. Yeah. And I cut it off. So, listen, avoiding divorce before you get married is definitely a key. Kamry, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No. I do want to just say that I admire your strength. I admire you for making that decision, because I know what it's like to be in such a toxic relationship like that, and to where it's a stronghold. Like, it's almost like you in like in prison. Like, you just, man. And so the fact that you had the courage to say, you know what, my girls don't need to see this, and I'm gonna show them what they should do if they encounter this situation. And just the fact that you are I feel so blessed that I get to watch you. I didn't know you back then, but to be able to see the stuff that you are doing and what you're doing for God, and your boldness, and when you get on this podcast and when you speak, knowing your story is even more powerful, because it's like, man, I see where that fire come from. So when the enemy try to make you feel like you dumb, like you ain't got it and you don't know, you letting them know right now, listen, I have a voice. Mm-hmm. I have a mind. My mind is sound. Please. So anyway, I just I'm touched right now. Like I'm very inspired. I love it. Like, I would just love to read your book.
Look, I know I was working on one. I need to pick the pen back up and continue.
Yeah, it's gonna come.
Woo. I have a lot to share, but can't put it all in one episode. Yeah. So I hope that something was said that encouraged you. If so, be sure to leave it in the comments. Matter of fact, go follow me on Instagram at I am Princess Beasley. And when I post the clips, be sure to comment. Follow Kamry as well on Instagram at Kamry Monet.
Kamry.Monet.
Kamry.Monet.
Monet.
It'll be in the show notes and in the comments. Be sure to rate the show if you're listening on the podcast. And follow. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. And y'all, remember to let what you do inspire others. And y'all be blessed.